Hello everyone, it's Susie from the Smoky Lake Public Library and welcome to Afterschool Adventures. So now that it's finally nice outside, I've been spending a lot of time in my garden. So I thought we could do a couple crafts that kind of center around that. So we are going to be making some garden sticks that would mark what kind of vegetable you have planted somewhere, because sometimes it's really hard to tell. And then we are also going to be making some flower presses. So some of the pretty flowers that we find, we can press and keep them in a nice little frame. Let's get started. Alright, so we're going to start with our vegetable markers. So for these markers, we're going to be using felt to get the color and shape right. So we'll also need a pair of scissors and a pencil and some glue. So I'm just going to use white glue, but white glue probably won't last until the end of the summer. If one of your parents are around, get them to either use something like hot glue, or if you have something really, really sticky like crazy glue, because that'll last until the end of summer. And I'm going to use popsicle sticks. So popsicle sticks are a little bit small, but they will still work. But if you have something, they're called craft sticks. They look like this, but they're a bit bigger. Those would probably work best. Or whatever you have lying around. If you have one of those really big stakes that go in the ground, you can stick your felt onto there. Or just some cooking skewers, you could stick them on there. Whatever you've got around that you can put outside in the garden and stick your felt shape onto. But let's get started. So first thing first, you have to decide the vegetables you want to make. So I've got a few colors here that I want to use. So I think firstly I'm going to make carrots, because that is one of my favorite things to have in the garden. So I'm just going to try and draw with a pencil on the felt. It's a little bit tricky, so if you don't even want to try draw, if you want to just cut them out in the shape right off the bat, that's fine. So I am making mine maybe like 3 inches long. But it's kind of up to you, whatever you think will work. But we do want it to be big enough, right, that we can see it when it's outside. So here is my carrot shape. So I'm just going to quickly cut that out. So there's the beginnings of it. Looks good, looks vaguely carrot-like. So now I'll take my green and I'll add a stem. So the stem for carrots are kind of like feathery, right? It's not all just one stalk. So I'm going to kind of draw like almost a little hair for my carrots. So you can use your carrot just to sort of see what size you think you want it. And then just cut like a fringe pattern if you're doing something like this. So for the carrots, the stem can probably actually go on the back side of it, right? So we just need the top to look nice. But there, that's the kind of stem I have there. So now we just have to stick them together, right? And then that's how it's gonna look. And we have vegetable number 1 done. So carrots, what else do we have in our garden? Let's see, peas. I love the peas, so I'm gonna use my green again. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a pea pod, but I'm gonna show the peas inside, even though technically they're covered up. So to start off with, you can just draw an oval shape for your pod. Here's my pod. It doesn't look like much yet, but now we have to add the peas. So probably 3 peas will fit in there. So just 3 little circles that will get stuck on top. And of course, you don't have to do what I'm doing for the vegetables that you choose. However you think that the pea or the carrot or the corn should look. Alright, I've got my 3 peas. Now I'll just glue those in quickly. I made a big one for the center, because usually they're big fat ones right in the middle, and then they kind of get small on the ends. I'm so excited to have some fresh garden vegetables. They're not grown up yet, but soon. And here's my pea pod. So if you had a darker green to go on the pod and then a lighter green for the peas, that would probably look really good. But I only had the 1 color, but I'm still happy with it. So let's see, what else should we make here? What about an eggplant? Do you guys have eggplants in your garden? I don't know if we do, actually. I haven't checked. But I do have purple felt. So I am going to use that. So eggplants don't look like eggs once they're all grown up. They only look like eggs at the beginning of their life. So what you actually want to do is make a big bubbled out bottom, and then they kind of go skinny at the top. So kind of like that, right? And now we have to do the stem. So the eggplant stem is a little different from the carrot stem. It's like a thick stalk, and then it's got a couple of little leaves that kind of gather around the top of the eggplant. So you can cut that out. So just a nice little stick coming out, and then a couple little fanned out leaves. So kind of like that. So then it'll stick just over top like that. So that's the kind of stem that'll be on a few different things, right? Got my eggplant done. And finally, I think I'm going to make some corn. I could do a couple of others, like cucumbers, I know we have. But I think you guys know what a cucumber should look like, right? It's basically just an oval. So let's do something a little more difficult, like the corn. So we'll start out with an oval again. So here we go. It looks kind of like a lemon now, but we will add the green on it, and it will start to look more like corn. So just like this. And then think of how corn is. It gets totally enveloped by the leaves, right? It's got a nice little envelope of leaves on it. So what we'll do is we'll put some of those leaves on. So it's almost like the corn will be popping out when you start to peel it. If you ever help your parents peel corn for supper, that's the kind of leaf we're looking for. So we are going to, you can kind of use your yellow corn that you already started to help with the size, but just kind of trace part way up the corn and then going down just in two little points, and then that'll be the kind of shape we're looking for. So like that, and then you stick the corn underneath. And there it is. So those are the ones that I'm going to make here today. And then the last step is just to stick them on our sticks. So like I said, get the stickiest possible glue you have in the house. So something like hot glue or crazy glue would work really, really good. But that'll be the end of it. All right, here they are. So we can stick these in the garden, and then when we're going in and we're looking for a vegetable, but we're not really sure what it looks like, we can take a look at these and help us find the one we're looking for. Great. Let's move on to our next craft. All right, now to make our flower press frames. So what we'll need for this is a nice big piece of cardboard. You'll need some flowers. So mostly I have weeds right now, but they're still very pretty. And then you'll need some saran wrap or cling wrap, something nice and clear. You'll need some tape and some scissors. So very first step, we want to cut out the frame. So go ahead and take your piece of cardboard and get a nice flat piece. So I'm just cutting straight edges all the way around. And it can be a square, it can be a rectangle, it can be big, it can be small. But there we go. So that is the base. And then this is going to actually be our frame. So what we need to do is then cut out the inside, right? So the flowers can show through. So it may be a little tricky to get started, but if your cardboard can fold, you can fold it and cut it. Or just take a pencil and kind of poke through and make a nice hole for your scissors to get started in. So there, that's all you need, and then you can start cutting out. So here we go, this is my frame. So now if you wanted to kind of give it a little bit more decoration, maybe paint or color it, you could definitely do that, but I'm just going to move on. So what you want to do is pick the front of the frame and then put the front facing down on the table. And then we need to get our saran wrap or clear plastic wrap and get a size that'll fit your frame. And then we are just going to stretch it out over the frame. And then you may have to trim it down if you're doing a fairly small frame, because you kind of need it to just be the perfect size. Because if you fold it on the sides, then it might end up getting loose, right? After we finish. So just make it slightly smaller than the frame you have, because we want it to be able to sit on here and be taped. So maybe going to about half on each of these sides. Alright, so I've got my tiny little square here. I'm going to lay it on my frame, trying to keep it nice and flat. And now we have to tape it on. So I would just start with the 4 corners. And we're going to try and tape it on so the plastic is nice and tight and taut, right? So just start with one corner and then kind of pull in the opposite direction nice and tight. And put tape there. And then kind of pull it down. Okay, so once you have the corners done, you can kind of secure it a little bit more. So I'm going to go all the way around on every side now. So there might end up being a couple creases in there, but we're just going to try and get rid of those as best we can. But, you know, it's not a big deal if there's still a couple left over there. Alright, so here is my the front of my frame. And now, before we do anything else, I am going to cut a second piece of cling wrap that is about the same size. So maybe slightly larger, because this one will be going over the flowers. But go ahead and cut this piece just so you can have it ready when we need it. So here's my second piece. So I'm just going to set it aside. And now what we need to do is place our flowers in the frame. So go ahead and just pick some flowers out and stick them in the frame so they will be sitting kind of facing frontwards, right? So that one's a bit big, so I'm going to take a smaller one. I'm going to kind of bend it and something like that. So go ahead and make up your design, and then we'll finish it off. So I'm going to use some flowers, and also I just got some plain like grass pieces to put on the bottom. So yeah, do whatever you like for this. Alright, so once you have them placed, you can kind of just take a peek from the bottom, make sure you kind of like it. And now we're going to put it in place. So if you want to put some tape on your flowers, actually, just on the very base where they are on the cardboard, just to kind of keep them in place while you put on your plastic wrap, because they might move around a little bit. You can do that just to make things a little easier on yourself, but you don't have to do this if you don't think you need to. So now it's the last step. Stick it on and then kind of squish your flowers from the back a little bit. Just kind of squish them down. Make sure again that they're in a good spot. And then just start taping again. So start with the 4 corners. Alright, and then once you have the corners, tape up the sides a little bit more, just to make sure these don't go anywhere. And then that's going to be the end of this craft. So it's a pretty easy way to kind of put some pretty flowers on display, right? Alright, here they are, our garden themed crafts. I really enjoyed making them. I hope you guys had fun. And that's all I have this week. So I will be back next week with another video, and I hope I see you guys then. Bye!